again, and welcome to the NYC Accessibility and Inclusive Design Meetup. I'm Cameron. I am one of the organizers of the event, and Sean here and Thomas Logan, who's not here, work together to put this on about once a month. We have a meetup group that I think most of you have seen, and if you have any comments or ideas, use that as a forum for discussion. If you have things that you want to see here, you're welcome to post them to the meetup group, and we'll welcome those ideas. Next month, we're tentatively going to do a review of accessibility testing tools. The W3C Web Accessibility Initiative recently released a list of accessibility evaluation tools that's been updated pretty comprehensively. So I'm involved in some open source efforts in that space, and I am going to do a review and demo some of these technologies for you. So that's going to be the first Tuesday in January. I think it's the 6th. But keep your eyes on the meetup group for further announcements. So without further ado, Sean Laureate here is with us today, per usual. He's an engineer at Google during the day and focuses on accessibility in Google Docs. So that encompasses both making the Docs experience accessible and by virtue of that, creating accessible documents. He's going to show us how to do that today. Please welcome Sean.
Okay. I have my name up here, and the @Slaureate is my Twitter handle. It's just my first initial and last name. And about an hour ago, I tweeted the slides if you want to have a look or follow along. There are a whole bunch of speaker notes in there, which Char actually wrote. I have Char's name and Twitter up here as well, because this is based on a talk that we gave at Accessibility Boston earlier this year. I edited it a bit because the original presentation, which I gave with Char, had a whole bunch of asides and jokes and stuff that included things like pictures of her son, stories about her husband, and that would just be kind of weird if I stood up and did that. Also, she is a writer, and I am not. I've written one book, but I would not claim to be a writer. So I took out all the bits that are specifically for advice around writing, like how to construct sentences, how to construct paragraph structure in a way that's more accessible. It's really useful information, but I can't really speak to it and pretend that I can answer questions about it. So basically what I'm doing is today I'm going to just walk through kind of the functionality side of things, so the different things that you can use in Google Docs in order to create more accessible content. And with that, I'm going to start off actually with a video of Char kind of explaining why you would want to do this. This is a quick clip that I think Adobe put together at one point, which is on accessibility, but unfortunately has no captions. Here we go. Hopefully this will play.
Think about some numbers. 1 in 8. 18%, more than 1 billion people around the world have some kind of a disability. You can say to people, do you use a mobile device to read my stuff? Do you use an iPad? Are you home? Are you connected to high-speed internet? You cannot say, are you blind? Are you deaf? Are you colorblind? Do you have motor issues where you can't use a mouse? This is part of your audience. And when you're talking about people with $1 trillion of buying power, you want to make sure you can reach everybody you need to.
There we go. So Char also organizes the Boston Accessibility thing, which is part of why she and I gave that talk together. So if you're ever up in Boston around when they're doing a meetup or the Unconference, highly recommend it. Awesome stuff. But anyway, I have a couple of quick quotes that Char puts up here, which I think are just really awesome. Being disabled is basically the largest minority group in the world, and it is the only one that you can enter at any time. And the quote here from Disabilities Funders Network, the actual source is in the speaker notes if you ever open up the slides, but it says, in countries with life expectancies over 70 years of age, people spend on average about 8 years or 11.5% of their lifespan living with disabilities. And I think this is a really good reminder for a lot of people because they forget that situational impairments and temporary impairments happen. Another quick quote is, we should not write so that it is possible for the reader to understand us, but so that it is impossible for him to misunderstand us. That is from Marcus Fabius Quintilianus. Sure. But I think it's a really powerful quote that speaks not just to writing, but also just in making things accessible, but where basically you don't want to just make it possible technically for the user to actually accomplish something or for the reader to understand what it is that you're talking about. You want to make it the default that they can accomplish what it is they want to accomplish, and you want to make it the default that they will understand what it is that you're talking about. So with that, I'm going to give probably the quickest introduction to WCAG ever. WCAG stands for the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and one of its principles is an acronym POUR, P-O-U-R, which stands for Perceivable, Operable, Understandable, and Robust. And I will speak a little more slowly since we just got some more people in. But basically, the idea is that you want, this is specifically targeted for web content, but a whole ton of it applies for just written content of any kind. The principles are still the same for all of it. The operable, even just taking into account flat documents, operable still applies because you still want people to be able to use whatever technology they're using in order to navigate through your content. So that makes it a lot more operable to actually make it through, say, an encyclopedia if you know how to get from the index to a given page that you're going to and not having to just read through the entire encyclopedia trying to find what you're looking for. So this is just a screenshot of Google Docs. A lot of people are using it these days to write documents, and there's a lot of functionality in Google Docs, and there's a lot of people writing content in Google Docs that's not using the functionality in order to actually do any kind of formatting or landmarking. And so basically what I want to do today is I want to run through a bunch of the functionality that's in here so that you can see kind of how you can construct things that are more accessible. And this is kind of a work in progress talk, so at any time if something is not really clear or you think that something else should be brought up or you just have a question, feel free to raise your hand or shout out. Alright, so getting into it, kind of the first thing is Docs has a whole bunch of built-in styles. So up here I have some screenshots, a screenshot basically of the format menu and a whole bunch of the different heading styles that are on here. Now this is using built-in styles, so normal text is just the built-in style, and then there's title and subtitle and headings and stuff. And the idea is that you want to use these styles in order to mark up headings of different levels, so that way people can actually navigate through the headings or get the metadata that these things are headings. Because if you just make text that is as big and as bold as heading level 2, but isn't actually a heading level 2, then you haven't given any structure for the user to actually use. Some general formatting rules. This is kind of delving a little bit into Char's domain and out of mine. But the idea here is that there's one screenshot that shows a chunk of text where all of the text is justified. And you can see that the spacing between the words starts getting really, really weird. Depending on the layout and the rendering engine behind the text, the kerning might also get really, really weird, and that can make it really difficult to actually read the text. And this is especially impactful the smaller the screen gets, because the more word wrapping you get. So everybody today reading things on mobile devices, your screens are going to be really, really small, which means your paragraphs are going to be really, really skinny. So the one screenshot on the right shows it with just left aligned formatting, which is what's recommended to use. Color contrast is also extremely important. So basically the idea here, there's a screenshot of a color blindness simulator. There's a link at the bottom, and it's in the, I copied it into the speaker notes as well if you want to check it out. But basically it's a thing where you can pick a picture and apply a whole bunch of different kinds of color blindness, like red-green deficiencies and all kinds of different things, basically to see what kind of impact that has on whatever graphics you have or even just font differences. So the best thing to do is basically choose color combinations that are more have more contrast. There's specific rules in WCAG as far as how much contrast your content needs to have. So this minimum ratio here is 4.5. There is basically an equation that if you look in the spec, it'll say, here's the rule, and it gives you this equation, which you just kind of look at it and go, what? So there are tools like this where you can just go in and plug in values, and then it'll say, okay, well, this has enough contrast. So in here, you can put in, okay, here's a foreground color and a background color, and here's the thing to change, and here's the ratio that I want, and then it'll give you the different contrasts and recommended colors. And there's a whole bunch of tools out here, but this one's pretty cool. So on the styles, which I should probably move this slide up to be with the other one that talks about styles. So this is basically showing you that it starts off with just title, subtitle, and then 3 levels of headings. And the reason for this is that you want to structure your documents in a way that you start off with a title and subtitle, optionally from the subtitle, but basically you should start off with heading level 1. You shouldn't start off with heading level 5. Because the heading level 5 is supposed to be under a heading level 4, which is under a 3, under a 2, under a 1, and that way you get kind of more of an outline and a nice structure to your document. You can go all the way out to heading level 6 in docs. Char has a recommendation, I forget the logic and that kind of thing. I think it's basically just a complexity of document structure, where if you get to heading level 5 and 6, you're probably doing it wrong. So one of the things that is kind of, if I back up a second, one of the things that keeps coming up as I show these screenshots is a little options menu that shows up on the styles. Here there's one that says save as my default, one says use my default, and the other one is reset styles. So you can actually change all of your styles in Google Docs. So you can create styles that have headings with the contrast that you want, with the font color, with the size, with the formatting, however it is that you want them. And then you can save them as your default styles. So that way any documents that you create will then just start off with these styles by default. If somebody shares a document with you for you to edit, or you just have an old document, you can update to use your default styles with the second option here. And then the third option is to reset basically to factory default, which is just docs default. So this screenshot, one of the reasons why I wanted to show it is not just to show that you can apply and update heading 1, but the interface that you're doing this through, this is more of kind of an author tip than a how to make things accessible tip. In the help menu, there is an input where you can search the menus. You can search all of the functionality that's in the menus and the toolbars and the context menus and all that stuff through a single input. So here I've typed heading 1, and it auto-completed 2 options. There's apply heading 1 and update heading 1 to match. And the apply heading 1 also gives me the keyboard shortcut, so if I really use heading 1 a lot, I can memorize the shortcut and then just hit that, and that's the fastest way to do it. Or I can just type heading 1 in here and then do whatever it is that I need to do. But there's also, and here's why I have a tab open, so I forgot to actually include this. So if you're in a document, let me zoom in so people can see. So I'm in a document now, and there's actually a shortcut to jump into that. So if I type just option /, it jumps right up to a search the menus, and then I can just type heading, and this auto-completes all of the different headings. So I can give it a specific one that I want, and then it'll narrow it down from there. Like I said, pretty much everything is in there. So you can do all kinds of fun stuff like setting the font size, which is really cool. So alt /, and if I just type like 36, font size 36 auto-completes, and then I can just hit return and it'll apply it. Like I said, yes, Chauncey. There is not, but it's something that everybody has asked for since it got there. Yeah, there are some things that got a little more involved in order to make that happen. So like you can do things like insert a table. So like if I type 3x4, it'll autocomplete to inserting in table this 3 by 4. But the color has got a little more involved. All right. So this is also more for kind of author information than making things more accessible, but it can make things more accessible to read if you are actually trying to just get through a document that somebody has shared with you. So there's a whole bunch of different options under View where print layout means the document is paginated. So if you uncheck that, it'll just be one massive page with a whole bunch of stuff going down, which is actually the way that docs used to be, and then we added pages. And then some people got really annoyed and they wanted their big long document back. You can hide the ruler. By default, there's a ruler along the top, which I almost never use, so I don't know why I always have it shown. But you can uncheck that, so that way it kind of clears it out. And there is compact controls, which there's a keyboard shortcut for that, and there's also a menu item. But basically, it results in this bottom screenshot here, where all of the menus have gone away. All of the Chrome that's up top, so like the big share button and the document title and all that stuff, it just clears out, and so you're just left with the document and the toolbar. And it also has the search the menus functionality still there, so if you do want to edit like that, you can. And actually, something else that I forgot to mention in that is that, say you are, so I just zoom back out to normal resolution in the document, and what I have here is basically a skinny document taking up probably about, I don't know, a little more than half of the screen real estate. So if I have a document that I'm trying to read and all the text is really tiny, there's a whole bunch of wasted space, you can zoom. So there's a control in the toolbar to zoom, and it goes from 50 to 200. You can do a custom. My favorite is zoom to fit. And so then it just takes the document and it just zooms it out to as much as takes up the width of your window, which is really handy, especially if you have like a widescreen laptop. Like my window on here is not even taking up the entire screen. And if it was, I would just have a little sliver down the middle with the document. So that can make it a lot easier to actually just read through the content itself. All right, this is, again, kind of getting more into Char's domain than mine. But this is just the preferences dialog where you can set different things that you want to use. So smart quotes, for instance, but one of the more powerful ones is automatically detecting links. So that way, if you're typing something and you're just typing a link, or you're pasting in a whole bunch of text and you paste in some links in there as well, it'll automatically change those so that they're real links and not just text of links. Which is really handy, because there's shortcuts for jumping around from link to link to link, as there are shortcuts for jumping around to pretty much any kind of component that you can have in a document. The other automatic substitution are things that are really common shorthands for things. So like 1/2 will be replaced with an actual 1/2. A parentheses with C in it will be replaced with a copyright symbol, so that way you actually have meaningful symbols and Unicode in there, instead of just kind of shorthand for things. So like the -- forward bracket thing will actually turn into a real arrow. A few other basic settings. Really the most important one in here as far as accessibility goes. Margins, of course, just don't make insane margins, but also the page color. So if you really do want to use something like light text on dark background, which can help a lot for low vision, you can alter the background color from here. So I mentioned some different things. Yes, question? Oh, this other settings dialog? So this is just the page setup dialog. So if I'm in the document, it's just under File. There's a page setup, which I can zoom in so you can maybe even see it. So it's right down here, and that'll open up. You can also get there by searching the menus, of course. Page setup. And then you can tweak all of that from there. I do not believe so. Let's find out. Nope. Yeah, there's a bit in the toolbar that has text color. Okay, so if you're in the document, so one of the things to keep in mind about docs, just quick overview for folks. So the document contents itself, which right now is this big giant black hole of nothingness, this is all custom rendered docs content stuff. So this is your word processor area, for which ARIA doesn't really work because there isn't ARIA for a lot of the components that we needed in there, and it just kind of breaks down because content editable support is really crappy. I could talk about that for quite a while and probably bore the pants off you. But everything outside of this document contents area is actually made with HTML and ARIA and stuff. So like the menu bar is a real menu bar as far as you can make a real menu bar with divs. But they're all marked up with ARIA so that you have the semantics, and the toolbar below it is as well. So I wanted to give that background because once you get up into the menu bar, which using Mac OS, it's Control Option F. If you're using Chrome and something else, it's just Option F. If you're using Windows, I think it's that one, Alt Shift F. Can you tell how much I use Windows? But once you get up into the menu bar, you can of course arrow around inside of the menu bar as much as you like. But from here, if you tab, it'll bring you to a thing that says when your changes were, which will bring up the revisions history if you ever want to check that out. If you tab one more time, you'll be in the toolbar. And from here, it works like a regular ARIA toolbar. So if you arrow around, you'll get through a whole bunch of things and then go to color. And that'll have text color as well as highlight color. So by default, it's just text color. And then you can set the colors from there. But of course, I haven't selected my text, so that won't work. So now if I go over, now it's white. Okay. Moving back into it, so I have a screenshot of the insert menu here, basically just to show all of the different kinds of things that you can insert. So there are footnotes and there are drawings and tables and stuff. With the table, I've seen on many occasions where the web had a problem where people wanted to do layouts with things with tables. In documents, I've seen the reverse, where people really want to do layouts that aren't in tables for tabular data. So you'll get basically columns of numbers that are only columns because somebody went through each line and went, okay, 3, space, 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 6, space, 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 which makes it impossible to actually tell what the heck is going on when you're using a screen reader. So please use tables for tabular data. Don't use them for other things, but for tabular data, please use tables. There are footnotes, which are really handy. There aren't endnotes. I'm sorry. I want endnotes too. There are comments. The comments will actually annotate spans of text inside your document. So if somebody sends you a document and they say, hey, can you give me some feedback on this? You know, add some comments in there. What typically happens is somebody will go in here and say, like, great job, signed Sean, inside the document itself, which makes it pretty much impossible to find, regardless of how you're interacting with the document. If you have a 50-page document, you're not going to find that, ever, until you like print it and hand it to your manager or something. So the way that you want to add comments is by using actual comments. So actual comments, I just hit Command Option M to bring up a little comments dialog. So I selected some text, and then I brought up this little comments dialog. And in here, I can add whatever comments that I want and hit comment, and then that's tied to the text. And then people can reply to that comment, so that way you can have an entire conversation about whatever is going on, and have it tied to the text, but not actually in the text itself. And that lets you not only keep it out of the document, but it also gives you a way to jump from comment to comment to comment. And it also, there is a spot where all the comments live. There's a comments kind of stream up here. And related to that, there's also suggested changes. So if you want to suggest a change to something, you can switch to suggesting, and then add something. Just type to add something, and it's annotated basically with a different kind of highlight than the comment. The comment is just kind of a block of color on here highlighting text, whereas the suggestion is kind of encapsulating it when I'm actually inside of it. But it works the same way as comments. It has its own comment dialog thing that you can jump into that'll give you actually a summary of the changes. So if I do like add something and then bold it and stuff, it'll have, there we go, bold. Now if I enter the comment, it says actually add something in here. So it'll actually, with the notification emails that go as well, because if you've ever done that on, or if somebody comments on your document that you own, or does a suggestion now, you'll get an email notification and it'll have this summary in there, which makes it a lot easier to actually see what people are doing. Yes? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Some people you can do everything you want and they won't read it. This is a better way to do it. If somebody insists that you write your comment and then add like giant bold bars on top and below in like purple, then maybe that's the best way for them. But mm-hmm. It can't be forced. If you get one of those notification emails, so say you comment on their document, and you comment away, and then you're done commenting, and you leave the document, it'll take all of your comments in kind of a summary, and it'll email that person with all of these notifications. If they hit one of the links from that, it will bring up the comment in the context of the document, with the comment focus pointing at the thing, saying, hey, I said this. If that text happens to have fallen off the document, like say they deleted that paragraph, but your comment is still associated with it, it'll just show up in here in the comment stream. So if they hit the link from the email, that'll bring it right to the forefront. But it's not going to just by default say, hey, you have comments in here, because there are some documents that are always going to have comments in there, and then that would probably get annoying. So yeah, you can leave comments in the body of the document, but it's going to be more difficult for people to find, at least semantically speaking. And this at least gives you kind of a way to have kind of a conversation without turning your document into basically a chat dialogue. Where was I? Okay, oh, right, adding things. So there's a whole bunch of different things that you can add in here. Ooh, I should project so you can see it. So there's a whole bunch of different things that you can add in here. Page count and page number are very useful. They also have semantics on them. So even though visually they just look like a number that just updates, if you move your cursor to it, it'll have kind of a little gray highlighty thing that says that it's auto-generated stuff. But if you're using a screen reader, it will announce something like page number 6 or whatever page number you're on, or page count, whatever the amount of pages is. Page breaks are useful because then you don't have to hit return 16 times and then update how many returns you have as you're going through and updating your content. Just use a page break, it's way easier. Headers and footers are really handy, but they're also fairly important. Char has a bit that I'm trying to remember right now. Landmarks, that's right. If you use headers and footers, you can actually use them as landmarks. It's good for people who kind of land in the middle of a document. If they're not sure where they are, then the header or footer could have the page number and page count in there. And so that way they actually have something to kind of grab onto as far as where they've ended up. keystrokes. I should probably split this into one section on content and one section on helping the author. Anyway, there's a whole ton of keystrokes. There's a keyboard dialog that you can bring up, which is under the help menu. It is also, if you hit command ? It'll come up. There's a whole bunch of keyboard shortcuts in here, but there's actually way more than this. If you hit the View All Shortcuts and Help Center link that's in the dialog, it'll open a new page, and this has all of the keyboard shortcuts. And this is just for documents. It's split up by type. There's a heading for each kind of thing that you can do. Like this is just the images and drawings section, and it looks like there's 12 or 13, but there's a whole ton of them. You're not going to memorize them all. I'm not going to memorize them all, and I wrote half of them. Not half, I exaggerate, but I wrote a fair amount of them. But the ones that you do all the time are really, really handy. So like I work on design documents a lot because I'm a software engineer and we design our stuff. One of the best keyboard shortcuts for me is jumping to the next heading, jumping to the next comment. Because if I jump from comment to comment to comment, I can go through all of the feedback that I get on a design document really, really fast. Going from footnote to footnote, I don't do that so often, but you can if you like. And we have one of those pages for each one of the editors. For the things where the functionality overlaps, the keyboard shortcuts are of course the same, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that kind of deviates just because there isn't a film strip in docs, whereas there is a film strippy type thing over here on the left when you're in slides, so there's shortcuts for bouncing around between these things. Wow, I should have put this one earlier. This is a screenshot of a cell phone, basically, with a bunch of text in it. This has kind of like 2 paragraphs and a little bit, but basically what it's showing is not the alignment problem, where basically you want to have everything aligned left. This has everything aligned left, but what it's showing is that when you have a mobile device, it's important to keep not just your sentences short-ish, but it's also important to remember that people are reading your content on different screens, and it should be readable on all of those screens. So if you're reading on like a giant laptop screen like this, it should be easy to read. If you're reading on your phone on the subway, depending on the things that you're writing, that might happen a lot, it should still be easy to read. So don't just have giant walls of text where a single paragraph goes on for a page and a half, because that'll just get entirely too difficult to keep up with. Lists. One related to that whole table thing where you have like 2 space, 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 space. A lot of times you'll see somebody just go dash, space, list item, whatever, hit return, do another dash and make another list item, hit dash, do another list item. We have lists in docs. We have a lot of them. These are just the default ones. There's a whole bunch of kind of embedded ones. There's another one for bulleted lists that also has kind of the embedded stuff. And something that's kind of cool is that if this is a screenshot of a list itself, and if you can select the list items, and then inside of the context menu, you can change what the list items are on the list. And if you still don't like those options, you can hit more bullets, and it brings up essentially a special characters dialog, and you can just use anything you want as your bullet. So you can, I think you might be able to use snowman now. I think that's in there. Images. Okay, so a couple of things on images. Definitely always add alt text. One of the cool things about inserting images from search, which is why I have a screenshot of the search dialog up here for images, that's if you just go to Insert menu, down to Image, and then you hit Search on the left navigation of that dialog. If you search for an image, like in this instance I've searched coffee, which is my default test image search, I like coffee. If you insert an image from web search, it'll also import whatever alt text is on that image, which is really cool. For instance, the video that I embedded in the presentation that started off with jar, it also pulled in the description of that video into the alt text of the video placeholder, which is really cool. Don't just trust whatever the web puts in there, though. We have a dialog for managing the alt text, and you should probably check it out. It says a cup of coffee. That's accurate. All right, good. I already talked about tables. I don't have to talk about tables. All right, just to wrap things up, just wanted to reiterate that basically the idea is that you can create documents that are WCAG compliant. You can follow all these different rules that WCAG puts out and guidelines for how to actually create documents that everybody can actually access and read, and you should. And with that, questions? Yes?
Whenever you want to interrupt me, I have so many questions that you can't possibly answer them all. Basically, when you embed the let's say video, let's call it a music video. First of all, Google doesn't usually carry the Vivo videos kind of 100% to the other side, and if it does, it usually contains the pre-roll advert by the rules.
So this is a question about YouTube?
Yeah, so can you basically embed an item, a video item, into the docs?
You can embed videos into presentations like I did, but you can't embed videos into documents themselves. So like the word processor here doesn't have like an insert video capability there. Spreadsheets doesn't either, but you can embed them in the presentations.
So can you embed the images for, well, basically images on the headers? Let's call it you have a dynamic image that you want to basically update from, well, call it a Dropbox or Google Drive.
Oh, gotcha.
And
no, sorry.
You can't reference.
You can't say like. So basically, what happens if you?
What if you type HTML?
If you insert an image, there you can say by URL. But I don't believe that will live update, if that's what you mean.
All right.
Yes?
What about recommendations for hyperlinking, you know, copying and pasting a URL versus highlighting a text and making that hyperlink?
So the recommendation just follows WCAG. So if you're actually making a link, it's important to actually link meaningful text rather than just like a flat link text, or rather than like click here with a link on it. So kind of the general rule of thumb is if you go to something that has a decent title for the page, so like if I was linking to, I don't know, like the WCAG intro page, then I would just make the text itself WCAG intro page. So like instead of saying something in here, let's see, WCAG overview, and then I would want to actually change this to WCAG overview itself, except spelling it right. Yes, back left.
Could you reiterate briefly, you mentioned when you're adding footers, then screen readers will present what the automated fields like the page number represent. And then for comments, you mentioned that there's like a special span that is wrapped around the text that's being commented. I couldn't quite remember. How are comments presented through a screen reader?
Well, I can show you depending on how. Shush. Okay, I'm going to mute for a second just because I'm going to reorganize things a little bit. It's kind of hard to see. Let's see. All right, I'm going to unmute. Let's see where we are. That's right. Oop. Muting. My keystrokes are being hit by something. So at any rate, I can give you a quick description of what happens. So this is a highlighted bit of content here. What's that? It might be. I'm not hitting the arrow keys. Oh, here we go. All right. Nope, once I unmute, it completely loses focus. Okay, it might be text on top. Voiceover off. There, it says that, fine. Okay, so I have text here that says hi there, and it's highlighted by a comment, sorry. If I was on the text below it, and I arrowed up to where this is, what it would say is it would say comment start hi there. And then for this link here, if I was going through this text, if I went word by word by word, start off, go down, it would say add WCAG overview. If I went from add to WCAG, just like holding down option, hitting the right arrow to jump words, it would go over add, and then it would say link start. And then once I start going through here, it would read whatever I was going over and then say whatever's in the link, and then once I left the link over here, then it would say link end, period. For the auto-generated text for the page count example, when I got to the page count, or like if I went into a paragraph that had the page count in it, it would say whatever text is in there, and then page count, and then the number of pages that is rendered. No, so the content of the comment is actually completely removed from the document. So this is more of a landmark, so rather than interrupt whatever the comment is in, so like if you were trying to read paragraph by paragraph or line by line or however you're navigating, and you want to hear the line, and in the middle of that there's a comment, it would more kind of let you know that there's a comment in there, but it wouldn't read to you the entire comment or the entire comment thread. So what you would do is navigate from within the comment, in the document here where I am, into the comment itself. My focus is actually on the right at this point. So there we are. I'm inside of this dialog, and this is just a normal HTML ARIA dialog in here. So from there, it's just flat text, and you could kind of go through piece by piece. If there was like 5 comments, you could navigate through as you wanted to.
More stuff. This is the easy one. Basically, how do you do the, let's say that you do letterhead, and you want the date to follow automatically?
So you want to...
So you want to basically create a template. Let's say that, Dear John, on December 2nd, 2014. Well, the next time I'm accessing document, basically it's January. I'm lazy, and for some reason I basically just forget it.
Right.
And well, in January I decided to basically, well, now it's time to send that letter. So I go back to that letter document. Well, has it updated? No. Is that only item I'm basically ever forgetting to do? Yes.
So for the built-in functionality for docs, there isn't a way to do that. So you can't mark something as like, hey, automatically update this date or this field, whatever it is that you want to do. But there actually are Drive apps out there that'll do things like that for you. So if you're in, let's see, if I give you a quick view of Drive in here, where is it? New? So you can connect apps from here, and then it gives you kind of a whole app store of stuff, of things that work with docs. So like one of the more popular ones on there as well is an application that you can use to fax your Google Docs places, because we don't fax by default, but you can do it. So there's a whole bunch of things in there like that. Like one of the other more popular ones is Mail Merge, which is also using fields like that, where basically you can say, here's a spreadsheet, here's a document, connect the fields, away you go. And then you get a series of stuff. So not built in, but that should be available through that.
All right, more questions? How do you publish a simple HTML? So sometimes you basically want to share the document, but you don't want to, well, share too much of stuff. So you basically just want to export the simplest HTML with embedded couple of things, and just off you go. So I basically currently using Sublime Text just to basically write in Markdown and then just basically publish in HTML, booyah, put it to Dropbox, send a link, which is kind of a lot of work.
You could do that. You can share to somebody with view-only mode, so basically they won't do anything, there's no functionality that they would be actually using, but it would just be the same kind of look and feel as if you were looking at the page. It's just they wouldn't be able to do anything at all. You can also publish to the web, so there's a menu item here where you can publish to the web, and that'll do the straight export for you. You can also download it and export it to a whole bunch of different formats. So like you can download as web page and then kind of drop it wherever you want from there.
Oh, didn't know that. Cool.
Sean, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
This is Cameron. So what is, like someone brought up on the Meetup page that I think, I don't remember the name, but I think it might have been Deborah, that she was experiencing difficulty using the web interface, or she had a friend who was, had a vision impairment who was having difficulty using the web interface.
Right.
And I think this was maybe 6 months ago. Can you tell us about some of the improvements that your team has been putting into place recently, and sort of what your plans are for making the experience as someone who's blind using a screen reader better for both composing documents and reading documents?
Sure. So there's been kind of a series of improvements. I'll go at kind of a high level that I don't know anything about, which is basically browsers have gotten a lot better, thankfully. They're actually supporting things more consistently. Internet Explorer is releasing on almost a regular basis now, which is amazing. The screen readers themselves have done drastic improvements. So when I first started working on docs, I think JAWS 12 was out, and its support for ARIA and general web standards was really scattered. There were a whole bunch of other screen readers out there as well whose support is still kind of up and down. NVDA is awesome. So pretty much like the best experience out there as far as like if you're using a Windows machine, NVDA and Firefox is a great combination. Mozilla have made a lot of fixes themselves, Chrome as well. Since we have kind of a more direct line of contact since we work at the same company, we've been able to file loads and loads of bugs, which they have thankfully been fixing loads and loads of bugs. Mozilla has also been really, really receptive, because basically anytime you point out something where it's like, hey, this is keeping me from doing something really cool that I want to do, they just kind of jump on it, and they're like, how can we make this awesome? Which is always great. And then in Docs, of course, we've done a whole heck of a lot. The Drive web interface, which I opened briefly here, which hopefully doesn't have anything weird in it. So that was rewritten earlier this year. It is currently opt-in, so if you haven't checked it out yet, I highly recommend that you do. Basically, there's a settings menu on the right, and for me it says leave the new drive, but if you haven't opted in, then it'll say something like check out the new drive that we've written, or whatever it is that they've done. They totally rewrote it. They totally rewrote the interactions for how things work, and it is way smoother. Not just if you're using a keyboard, but if you're using a screen reader. So like the old drive using VoiceOver and Chrome was really hit or miss, to be gentle. The new one works really, really well, which is great. The editors, we fixed loads of bugs. Yes, Chauncey. Sure.
I have found mostly what you're saying to be very true. Drive has gotten a lot better. However, I'm one of these bad people that puts all of my files in one folder. Is there any way to get first letter or first several letter navigation to work in there with my screen reader, or do I just need to manage my files better?
So that is a request that I have seen go by from a large number of people. There isn't a way currently to do that. Kind of the best way to do that is using the search functionality itself. So I know, right? One of the benefits of the search thing, though, is that it searches not just the titles, but you can search by owner, which is handy for me because I work with a ton of people. You can search by file type, and you can search by contents of whatever it is that you're searching for. And that includes text within PDFs, and that includes text within images. It's OCR'd and indexed for your account. So that way, if you take a picture, yeah, Cameron's laughing. If you take a picture of like something that says blah, blah, blah museum on the front of it, and you search for museum, it'll bring that up. It also works with image recognition, which amazed the crap out of me once when I first tried that and typed in like cat, and there was a cat. But yeah, I have the opposite problem, so I use folders so much that I forget where I've filed things, which is why I use search now.
I have another question on a related note.
Yes.
And similar to Chauncey's request, how can people report issues they're experiencing with Drive and with Docs, or even make requests for new features?
So there's a couple of different ways that you can do it. Under the Help menu, there is a Report an Issue menu item, and you can have the option. So if I hit Report an Issue, I can write giving a presentation. When I hit Next, it gives you an option to highlight the screen. It also has just a blackout button, but you can offer feedback that way, and that'll just get sent to the default place. But there's also another place if you don't want to have it like specifically tied to your document, and it's just kind of general feedback or general questions or general suggestions. There's a mailing list on Google Groups. It's accessible at googlegroups.com. So even though it's not specific to Docs and Drive, I'm on it. A couple of other folks from my team are on it. There are folks from Chrome on there and YouTube and a whole bunch of different people from all over the company. So if you have suggestions or questions about things for Docs and Drive, awesome place to go. We've also seen people bring questions there and get answers faster from people who aren't even on the list than we can get to them. So it's kind of a helpful community. Yes, sir. In the back.
All right, well, now the tricky one. On the sheets, you have basically cool functionality like exporting JSON, which is the published document, and then you take the long number and then you enter the syntax and at the end and use the long number alongside that, and booyah, you have a JSON feed from your whatever columns you have. You have to start from B1.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but that's kind of the tricky part. These are kind of non-documented anywhere, and there's kind of non-human way of just file, publish, JSON. And at the JSON feed itself, there's a kind of lots of rubbish. So if you basically write down the simple backend, which you kind of shouldn't do, but basically you're using Google and basically writing the simple experimental backend for your application, it's a very handy way to do that. But there's basically how do I get rid of rubbish from the JSON feed, from the formatting, and basically the how do we clean up the user interface, so there's an easy way to do the JSON stuff.
I don't have a good answer for you on that one. I work on the things, but I am not a power user of the things. If one of the people from the screen reader team is, or the spreadsheets team is here, I could check with them. But aside from that, probably the report an issue thing would be the easiest way to offer feedback through that. Yes, Chauncey.
Are intermediate users or they're emerging technology users, and it's very, well, nothing is easy in this field because of the way that knowledge is distributed, but it's easier for them to learn to use Microsoft Office because all the people at the agencies know it, and there are a couple books you can buy online just for keyboard users. And if I were a sighted user of Google Docs, I would very quickly find a bunch of stuff on YouTube in addition to the documentation that you guys have. But I've been having a hard time finding credible and supportive enough resources for my patrons who have to use Google Docs or want to use Google Docs. I know the documentation's there, but it's pretty high level and limited. And I'm wondering if there are any third-party kind of training videos or tutorials or anything that you recommend, and or if there is in development any kind of training that would support these users.
So more of like the beginning tutorials rather than just the here's how you get to the thing and then here's a list of all the functions you can do. I don't know of anything off the top of my head. We've definitely gotten a lot of requests for that. I unfortunately can't speak to what's in development or not. But trust me, I'm aware of the need for that.
Lynda.com has some, but not all.
What was that?
Lynda, Lynda.com.
Okay.
more questions?
A couple more, one up at the front.
Hello?
Hello.
I came late. My name is Alvaro. I don't understand anything about Google Docs, to be honest, because it's very confusing for someone who, you know, I find Google to be a very good company, a little bit confusing, you know. I would like to know, first of all, if you work there, what do you do there, and what are the biggest advantages of Google Docs for someone who finds Google a little bit confusing to manage?
All right. So my name is Sean Laureate, and I'm the lead software engineer for accessibility on the Docs and Drive suite. So that's pretty much all the editors, so spreadsheets and documents and slides, and then the Drive front end and stuff. So I work with all of those teams to make sure that things are as accessible as possible and work with them to improve things all the time. As far as one of the biggest advantages, having things available on any platform that you're using, no matter where you are, is hugely advantageous. So that way, if you're working at a computer on a document or a spreadsheet or anything, and you can just leave it and pick up and go and leave your computer there. It's already synced to your account on the cloud. It's already there. That's where it's stored. And then you can open it on your phone in the subway, or you can open it on a tablet at home, or you can do whatever you want on any device, and it's just automatically synced together. So that's kind of one of the biggest benefits. The collaboration prospects of this are really, really handy. Earlier I mentioned that I wrote a book. I'm not a writer, but I wrote a book. One of the things that was a pain in the butt when I was writing my book was going through copy editing. So because I'm not a writer, there was a lot of that. But so basically it was many, many years ago. So Word files were emailed everywhere. And at a certain point, you don't know what version of what document you're looking at. Whereas if you just have one document that everybody is looking at and everybody has access to, and they can make the suggestions that they want inside of the document, then you don't have to worry about the versioning. The versioning is also there so that we have a full revision history that you can go through if you need it, but you don't have to worry about which copy of a document is being set where, or who has what, or merging these edits together once you actually get like 2 documents back at once with different changes that are conflicting. You don't really have to worry about that side of things. And then Jill, I think you had one question, and then Mira.
I was actually just wondering if this presentation and the video at the beginning of it were going to be available to us to refer back to online?
Yes, so the slides are already available. I tweeted them out. I can do this so again. They'll probably also be improved somewhat, as I noted several times in through that they were a little kind of jumping all over the place. But we are recording this, and thankfully they are being captioned. So hooray, thank you, Mira.
So that will be online.
Yes. And then Mirabai, I think you had a question.
Yes, speaking of the collaboration features, I've used Google Docs several times with people who basically use it as real-time text streaming, which is great because the real-time collaboration allows it to be a very powerful web-based captioning app. But the only issue is that when people are using it for that purpose, they have to constantly press the down arrow to keep scrolling down. I was wondering if there are any plans for implementation of a sort of auto scroll down feature for anyone who is viewing documents being live edited.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately there isn't that feature right now. Pretty much the only way that you would be able to do something like that is if you essentially typed each paragraph and then went up. So everybody's nailed to the top of the document and then the text is scrolling down. But that would make it really difficult to read. But I have a quick question before we go off to the next question, which is that, so as you're doing that, you're basically just a collaborator in the document, right? As you're captioning?
Correct.
So with somebody who's using Docs, who's using a Braille display, they would then be able to get the live captioning on their Braille display through Docs. Docs has Braille support.
I hope so. I've never actually tried it, but I would definitely hope so. But I think that would still have the same auto captioning issue, right? Or,
it would still have the same scrolling issues, so they'd still have to kind of keep up, but they would at least be able to go through it and read it as you're putting everything in there. Right, cool. There's a question. Chauncey had a question.
Whereby I wonder if a more compatible tool for that application might be Google Hangouts, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think perhaps the text chat in Google Hangouts does scroll in live time?
That does, yes. And there's actually a captioning app for Hangouts, so it wouldn't have to be in Hangouts itself. It wouldn't be like a live stream with the entire thing, but it would be more something like this where it's text on top. Any other questions? Oh, so there's an accessibility menu that shows up that John saw. So basically, if you have screen reader support enabled, there's a menu that comes up. So remember when I was talking about all the millions of keyboard shortcuts that you remember? Or don't, as the case may be? This basically gives access to a whole bunch of those. So like under the speak menu in here, you get things like speak selection formatting, speak cursor location, things like that. There's also things like my favorite, the comments one, which is where you can move to the next comments thread. So that way, if you don't happen to remember Control Command N, Control Command C, which I do because it's just like muscle memory at this point, but if you don't remember things like that for all of it, it's all in the menu here. So there's things around footnotes and headings and graphics and lists and stuff. So that's what that is. There's also settings down here where there's one item which I highly recommend anybody who's using a screen reader enable this, which is Braille support. It's currently behind a user preference. There's some known issues with it which are documented, but I think by and large, so long as those issues wouldn't collide with the way that you use things, which tends to be more like international keyboards and IME support and stuff like that, it drastically improves the interactions with docs because it basically gives the screen readers enough context that they can handle things like key echoing. And they can know where you are on a line, so that way if you're moving over a word or if you're typing and you have your echoing set to the word level instead of the letter level, then it'll work in docs. Any last questions? I guess that's it. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Sean. I'm thinking maybe now if anyone wants to come up and experience some of these features on this machine. We weren't able to demo them with VoiceOver during the presentation, but Sean, if it's all right with you. So if you have your own machines and you want to fire them up, Sean and I can come around and take a stab at demonstrating these features on your personal machines.
Excellent. NVDA and Firefox. Good choice. If you do have a machine and you don't want to install a full screen reader, or it is not a Mac that comes with one, Chrome Vox is a screen reader that Google makes, but it's just a Chrome extension, so it's not on Mac OS or Windows. It's not a full screen reader, so it's not something that we would give to somebody who needs a screen reader on that platform. It's written for Chrome OS, but it's made as a Chrome extension, so that way you can install it and test on other platforms as well and get the same kind of behaviors. So it's a really cool way to check it out.
I'm going to take this chance to thank Pivotal Labs and Pivotal for hosting the event tonight. This is the Pivotal Space. And also to SSB BART Group, who sponsored generously the pizza that you may have consumed. So thank you to both of those groups. Thanks. And we'll have the recording from tonight. We'll post links to that and a couple of other things, including the Google group and some other tidbits that Sean shared tonight. And so at this point, keep a lookout for any more announcements on the Meetup group. If you haven't already visited it, it's meetup.com/A11YNYC. We'll be announcing next month's meetup soon, so keep an eye out. Otherwise, you're welcome to stick around and demo with Sean and mingle, say hello, and we'll want to be out of here. We have like 40 minutes reserved in the space, so take your time and I'll let you know when I'm going to kick you all out. Thanks very much.